Okay, so hello everyone. Hi, thank you for being here. Cold weather today, right? So maybe let's just start with a few questions. Because today this is not going to be something very technical. I just want to have a philosophical discussion with you over some things that I've been thinking about for the past year and also working on it. But can you guys tell me how many profiles do you guys have? How many people here have at least one profile? Profile means like a Facebook profile or a LinkedIn profile. Okay, and how many people have at least 3 profiles? So like majority, 5 profiles? Okay, 10 profiles? Okay, I probably have 10 profiles because there are way too many platforms out there right now. Now let's talk about wallets. How many people here have at least one wallet? 5 wallets? 10 wallets? See, I probably have more than 10 wallets. Okay, probably because I use them for development, but still. So like what's happening out there? Like we have so many profiles, so many wallets. How did we get here? Why is there so much confusion there? So that is what I want to talk to you guys about today. And I just want to have a genuine conversation about how the internet evolved. So, how many people here were around when we were officially in the Web 1.0 era? Okay. I was a child there then and back at that point, but still, I think I created my first email around that time. But I think that was about the time where was you could only create an email. There were no profiles back then. So, like, the platforms were read only, they had no context, they were just static. You could just read and consume information. And that was about it. And then slowly things started changing. More and more context started coming to the interactions on the internet. That is what we call the Web 2.0 era, where the interactions were contextualized. So when you saw some information online, you could not just only read it or consume it, but you could also interact with it. You could like, post, subscribe, do a tweet, create a video. And that is how, through these interactions, everyone started leaving bits and pieces of their own personality online, which we also call as digital footprint. And that is officially the point where profiles as a concept were introduced. So, what exactly are these profiles, and why are we talking about them so much today? Profiles are very powerful concepts, but they do some key functionalities. So, they identify the users within a platform, they contextualize your interactions, they personalize your experiences, but they're all siloed within a platform. So let's talk a little bit more about what these profiles do. When I say profiles identify a person or a user in a platform, what do I mean? I mean that they identify your persona. This is actually a very interesting thing because when we think of a person, we think of a person as a singular entity, but that is not how human beings are. All of us, we have different various personas and we act differently based on the context or the environment we are in. Right now, as I'm standing on this stage, I have my speaker persona activated. Maybe after this conference, when I go home, I will have my mom persona activated. Next week, when I go to my office, I will have my employee or a coworker persona activated. And in each of these personas, I will not act the same way. I will probably use different body language, different way. I would even dress differently. And this human beings acting this way is not only in the physical world, that is exactly how we operate in the digital world as well. And that is why we have different profiles, different personas on these different platforms. For example, I have here 3 examples. So when you see somebody's LinkedIn profile, it's probably a headshot, and that profile has a list of their skills and achievement. Completely different persona. When you see somebody's Facebook, probably they have a profile picture that shows where they recently traveled and some personal information about maybe they attended a friend's wedding or maybe they just recently had a baby. So things like these, it's more personal. And when you see somebody's GitHub, it has a completely different persona. People don't even use profile picture, and most of the people just have this random GitHub avatar. And yeah, it's about just about your code commits and what kind of languages are you coding in. So We operate in different personas. We are not singular entities that act exactly the same way everywhere. Now, how do profiles contextualize your interactions? This is also a very philosophical, I told you this is going to be a philosophical discussion. We think that when we consume information on the internet, whatever, if two people are saying the same thing, we consume and understand it in exactly the same way. However, that's not true. That's not what's happening. Imagine there are two people who are talking about some latest crypto regulation or something recent that happens in Web3. One of these profiles has a blue tick and has 50,000 followers. Another profile has no blue tick and has 26 followers. Whose tweet are you more likely to trust? Whose tweet are you most likely to retweet and share with your friends? Or even whose tweet would you believe more? So you are capturing information, not just what's written inside the tweet, but you are taking that context from the profile of the person that is doing that tweet. So that is how profiles contextualize our interactions as well. This is just one example. Then profiles personalize your experiences. Every person in this room, whenever you go to a Web2 platform, your experiences are personalized, and we all experience this, but this has become like a second nature to us that we don't even realize it. For example, when you go to Instagram, your entire feed is curated based on the friends you have, the interests you have, the influencers you follow. If you go on Netflix, they show you the recommendations of the movies based on the interest you have. For example, they would show you like you have a 93% match that you like this movie, or you have an 80% match that you like this movie. And similarly, if you go on Facebook, they would show you the groups that you should maybe join based on the interest that you have. These are all little instances of how our experiences are personalized online, and we really see this so much that it's like a second nature to us, and we don't even realize that what's happening. But this is very important for retaining users on a platform. That is why the experiences on Web2 platforms are so dopamine driven, and they like make you feel good, and that's why you want to go to these platforms again and again. However, one thing that profiles do is that they are siloed to a certain context. They're siloed to a platform. The platform holds your profiles. What has happened over the past 2 decades is that profiles have become so enriched and so powerful as a concept that now they're a business advantage. Your profile on Facebook, for example, has more than 2 decades of data on you, and they can identify what you would like, what kind of clothes you would want to buy, what kind of things you would be interested in, and therefore, none of these platforms want to open this data. This context is siloed, and they want to keep it that way because it's really powerful. It can tell you great insights about the behavior of a prospective user. It's important for marketing, it's important for ads, it's important for business. So why would they want to open it up? And other thing is that your profiles, you don't really own them. If, for example, you write something, or if Facebook or any giant, for example, wants, if they want, they can block your profile. So you don't really own it. Now let's talk about, as the internet progressed further, what happened in Web3. Web3 introduced the ownership economy, which was very interesting because now you could essentially own everything. You could own your assets, you could own your data, you could own your identity. However, nobody talks about owning your own context or owning your profiles because those as a concept don't yet exist in Web3. The other very important thing and very interesting thing that Web3 did at its core was that it provided privacy for the user, but transparency for the actions. So we don't know what a wallet address is. We don't know the person behind the wallet address, but we know exactly what transactions are being done. This led to a completely new paradigm of how we view interactions. However, in an attempt to pseudonymize the person or the user, we completely lost behind the context. The anatomy of a wallet is such that it has a blockchain address, some transactions, some assets, but it has no information about the social context of a person or the interactions or any user interest, preferences, nothing like that. So a wallet does not have any of it. And why is it a problem? It's a problem because Web3 holds a huge promise for platforms. When all of the people here, when we think about Web3, we don't just think about transferring money from one person to another. We all think about censorship-resistant platforms, social media platforms, streaming platforms, and have been like so many amazing use cases that can be possible through the tech. And that is what we want to essentially go forward towards, because the financial part, okay, that's going good, but we are now building other use cases on top of Web3. And every time somebody has started or attempted to create such a platform, they have faced huge cold start problems. What's a cold start problem? Cold start problem happens when a platform doesn't know what kind of user is landing on that platform. They have no idea how to interact or engage with that platform, and therefore, right now, the retention rates on Web3 platforms are really, really, really low. And it's a huge problem for platforms. In the future, if we want that Web3 has a huge adoption, when we talk about the next billion use cases or the next billion users or the next million use cases, that cannot happen without engagement. So for the past few years, everybody has been talking about the onboarding problems and how the onboarding needs to be easy. But imagine even if we solve that problem, let's say everybody on earth is now on Web3, they can create a wallet, they don't need to install MetaMask, they're on the chain. Then what? How are you going to retain them? How are you going to engage these users? How are you going to incentivize them to come to your platforms again and again without airdrops? So every time there has been engagement on the chain, the number of transactions have grown rapidly. I have two examples here. The first one is from CryptoKitties. How many people here were around when the Ethereum Ethereum mainnet completely stalled because of CryptoKitties? Yeah, I had to deploy a smart contract, and I had to wait for 2 days for that smart contract to be deployed. But what happened at that point was that people started engaging with a game, and because of that game, there were so many transactions that happened on Ethereum that it essentially broke Ethereum down and brought forward all the scalability issues that Ethereum had, which started the whole layer 2 movement. Then last year, Base blockchain came out. This is the blockchain by Coinbase. And in order to foster this engagement, they started doing this podcast with Jesse Pollock and a few other influencers. And just because of this one podcast, Base became the most profitable layer 2 in the first month after they were launched. And this is because the customers felt engaged. And that is the huge, huge thing that we are completely missing from Web3. How do we engage users? At this point, I would like to introduce myself. I didn't do it in the start. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Plurality Network, and we are building the open social context layer for the web. So I've been talking a lot about profiles and how they're siloed, but also the good things that they provide. Now imagine, what if you could create profiles against your wallet address, which are portable across different platforms, across different chains. You could take it with you anywhere you go. You can plug it based on the context. You can decide how much data you share with what platform, and whether you want personalizing features on a certain platform or not. What if you could be in control of your context? We've been talking about owning your identity, owning your NFTs, owning your assets. Why can't we own our own context as well? Why can't we have the same level of experience on Web3 platforms as on Web2 platforms? This is where smart profiles come in, which we are building on top of open social context layer. Profiles help people have transparency over how their data is being shared, whether they want their data to be shared. They decide how do they want themselves to be viewed by a certain platform, and they can take these profiles from one platform to another, just like a USB stick. So like you have your USB stick, you take it from one computer to another. So why can't you have these open context and open contextual profiles that you can take from one platform to another? These profiles also help the apps to understand their customers better and provide them with a better experience so that they can engage them in a way that's better than just providing them with airdrops and asking them to come connect again and again. Rather, it can help in fostering a really transparent, really good relationship with the user. And that is all. Thank you. If you guys scan the QR code, we have a hackathon in the next month. And I would really, really love to invite developers here to try and build different use cases on top of smart profiles. So yeah, we'll be announcing it on our page. So any questions? Yeah.
Some karaoke yesterday, so I'm going to use the microphone. Sorry. Hira, I just want to know, in terms of onboarding more women into Web3, are you finding that an issue? Or is, because the other thing about, I think as women, is that we like to make sure we control our identities, our privacy, safety, and security. So how is Plurality going to be addressing that? And is there a way we can be more inclusive in Web3?
I think what Plurality offers is choice. Choice over what kind of data you want to share with whom. So Plurality allows you to create multiple profiles on top of your existing Ethereum or whatever address. And you can basically decide what data goes into it and what data you are sharing with certain platforms. So for example, if you go to a platform and you don't want them to access certain parts of your data, then you wouldn't allow it. And I think that would create not that would create a more safer space, not just for women but for any person on the internet, because like every person has different levels of trust or different levels of privacy that they want to achieve. Some people are completely okay with mm, sharing like more data about themselves in return for getting a really, really good personalized experience. Some people don't want to share. So I think not just for women, but it's about choice. So whatever makes you feel comfortable, you can go and you can connect that data. Yeah, that's me. Thank you. Perfect. That would be great. Thank you. Yeah. Are there any other questions? Okay. Okay, then I guess I'll leave the stage for the next speaker. Thank you so much. You guys were a great audience.